guys, what's going on? Is Catman227 here, and welcome back to Warframe Master Guides. Now, the Warframe we're going over today is MESA Prime, one of my personal favorite of the female Warframes. She is probably one of the most damaging Warframes in the entire game, and in my opinion, one of the best Warframes in the entire game because of her toolkit, and how just diverse she really is. So, let's go ahead. I'm going to quickly show over all of her abilities like I do in every video. So this is the passive ability. I really do like this ability because this is where the diversity comes in. You are able to use dual wield pistols, or any pistols of any kind, but mostly dual wield, and it will reload your weapon much faster, which I absolutely adore because, I mean, reload speed is always awesome, and I love pistols and dual wield pistols. So, but I'm pretty sure she does both. And then you gain an extra 50 health bonus if you unequip your melee, which I always do because having more health is always good. So, I normally do it. You don't have to do it. It's not really that big of a difference. 50 health, not that much. But I do it anyway just because that's how the developers intended you play the Warframe. Plus, it's a good challenge not being able to use your melee. Now, here we go. This is Ballistics Battery. I'm not going to read off all of them. I just really wanted to explain her passive just because her passive is really awesome. Okay, here we go. Shooting Gallery. One of her other more useful abilities. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Shadow Shield. This isn't really that good of an ability, and I will explain why once we start talking about the abilities. And of course, her Peacemakers. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start the survival mission. Okay, now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the passive. So let's go ahead and shoot a couple of these enemies down. Okay, now watch the reload speed on these things. That is insanely fast if you know anything about these guns right here. The guns that I am currently using reload extremely slow, but the recoil still goes everywhere, but that's fine. So yeah, now let's go over, this is how I would use the first ability. So the first ability, it's called Ballistics Battery, and as you probably read from the thing, what happens is, whenever you activate it, you get a number that appears over the icon. Now, you have to do damage in order to charge it up to 100, like so. Okay. There you go. Now it is 100%. You can charge it with either your melee weapon, your primary weapon, or secondary weapon. Doesn't really matter which weapon you use to do damage with, it will stack it up to 100 no matter what. However, here is where the downside comes in. You only get one shot, but you want to use this as much as possible. So in order to constantly be spamming this ability, you'd want to use a fully automatic weapon such as this one, because it's just a really good weapon. You can get this weapon from the parent sequence, and it's just a really good weapon if you form it a couple of times, or I'll probably show you the build for this also at the end of the video. But yeah, if you just constantly spam Ballistics Battery, and then pull out these things, kill a bunch of enemies, and then get Ballistics Battery charged all the way up, then you should be able to use it repeatedly. Now, let me talk about, before I even start talking about the abilities, well, you know what, let me just show you what it does. So let me switch to this weapon, the Grinlock, which is a semi-automatic, so this is how much damage it does normally. Okay. Now, what happens is once the Ballistics Battery's meter reaches 100%, you can activate the ability again, and it will go away. Now that means the damage has been stored into my primary weapon. Then whenever I shoot it, see that? It grants you a much more powerful shot. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this is because she does favor other types of weapons. Now, I'm trying to stack it up with this gun to show you just how slow it really goes if you use semi-automatic weapons. So if you're going to use a semi-automatic rifle such as snipers, or bolt actions like marksman rifles like this one, or a bow and arrow, which is what she prefers to use, are semi-automatic weapons. Not bows specifically, but she does do really well with bows as well. But if you have a semi-automatic weapon, or a fully automatic weapon like this for your secondary, not only does it output a lot of lead and a lot of damage, it can stack your ballistics battery extremely quick, much faster than your primary weapon. So your primary weapon should always be a semi-automatic weapon. Whether that would be the Grinlock, whether that would be the Buzzlock, whether that would be a sniper rifle of any kind, or a bow and arrow. Just anything that is a one-shot, every time you pull the trigger, it shoots one bullet. This is more along the lines of what she would like to use. Now, the reason why I say MESA prefers these is because you only get one shot from ballistics battery. It is a very powerful shot that does heat damage. Now, people oftentimes say that ballistics battery is one of her weaker abilities because you can't spam it. But I would have to heavily disagree. I think ballistics battery is very powerful, and I actually did use it to kill the Wolf of Saturn VI, who was a level 75. I will leave a link to the description for that video, because I did upload that. And I used MESA Prime, and spammed ballistics battery. So, I will tell you right now, for secondary weapons, you always want to try to use a pistol, like an actual pistol, and you definitely want to use dual-wield pistols. And if you can, try either the Lex Prime, or the AK Lex, or these things right here, the dual Sestras. These things are absolutely amazing, and like I said before, they charge up your ballistics battery. So anytime that you pull these out, you just do a lot of damage, charge up ballistics battery, activate it, swap over to your primary weapon, and unload the powerful shot. And then you can switch back to these, activate it again, start spamming, oh god, start spamming these, and there you go, 100% already. Switch back to your primary, activate it, there you go, there's your powerful shot. So, it works very well. Now, oh god, I'm just missing. So, that's ballistics battery. It is very powerful for taking out more powerful enemies, such as bosses, and it's one of the few abilities that will actually work on bosses and sub-bosses like the Stalker, the Wolf of Saturn VI, and the Goose Rag 3, as well as the Zanuka Hunter. So, this is an ability you definitely want to have it ready to use at all time. Now, if you do fall off the map or something along those lines, don't threat too much, because all it will be is if you fall off the map and you notice your 100% is gone, that just means it used the ability and your next shot will be the more powerful one. So if you try to use it with these, though, with the Sestras, it's not really going to do all that much, because it's only one shot. So if I activate this and shoot it, it only does that one bullet. So it's not going to be nearly as powerful as if you were to save it for your semi-automatic, which would be your primary. So try to always use these combinations of weapons. Not these weapons that I'm currently using specifically, but just semi-automatic weapons like snipers, and just semi-automatic weapons in general, such as bow and arrows, for your primary, and try to keep a fully automatic sidearm dual wield if you can. Now, that was a long description of the first ability, so getting on to the next one is Shooting Gallery. Shooting Gallery is good for a couple of reasons. you can spread it to your allies. So let's say, for example, you need to protect a cryopod, and there's tons of enemies. What this will do is it will circle around your body, and any allies that come within about this range to you, they will also, or if they enter the circle, basically, because the circle will expand the further out you go. Now, enemies like the infested will just be straight up stunned, like you saw that one right there. Or, what will happen is it will jam weapons. So, if you use Shooting Gallery, it will stun the enemies like that do not have weapons, like melee units. Or it will jam the guns of the other ones, so that way they won't be able to use it. Now, if your ability runs out of duration, then their weapons will work again, and they will become unstunned. So, that's about really all it does. Now, the reason why I said that this ability, Shadow Shield, is not really all that good is because it does not help you versus the infested. Now, what happens is, with this ability, any incoming projectiles that hit you, such as bullets or any kind of projectiles, will bounce off of MESA and will be reflected back at the attacker. This is a problem for a couple of reasons. Sometimes the enemy will be hidden behind cover. This ability does not work versus the infested. So I will throw that out right now. It does not work against the infested because obviously we know the infested do not shoot. But this will not attack you this will not prevent ancient healers from hooking you, such as this right here. I wanted to demonstrate that. And pretty much any enemy that can grab you and slide you across the ground, like the ancient healers can, Shatter Shield will not prevent that from happening. So let's try this again. Oh, they changed it. Okay, I was wrong. I gave you the wrong information. It does stop the attacker. So before it didn't. I didn't know that they changed that. So my bad. My apologies for the misinterpretation of the ability. So anyway, so now that I know that was a thing, yeah. So the problem with it though is if you're fighting against the Grineer or the Corpus and you decide to use Shooting Gallery, then that makes Shatter Shield kind of useless, because nobody's really going to have the ability to shoot you or even attack you, because their weapons will be jammed and the melee units will be stunned. So there's not really going to be a whole lot of instances where you're going to take damage whenever you have Shooting Gallery on. Although, I would definitely say a really good combination is while you're trying to build up Ballistics Battery, you should be spamming your second and third ability, for sure. Now, I do need to grab some energy real quick. I'm running a little low. So let me go ahead and grab up some of this enemy. And I will show you the fourth ability. Now, normally, you will not be able to move while this ability is active. So please keep that in mind. So the best thing to do is get up to a high area, pop this, and you will just start raining death upon any enemies within your radius. Now your crosshair, which is this little circle that you see, will slowly start to shrink as you shoot. As you can see, it is getting smaller and smaller. Now this does drain energy as you use it, and it does cost energy to cast it. So this is definitely a very draining ability, and you cannot get energy from Energy Vampire, Limbo's Rift Plane, or the Xeneric passive ability. So the only ways that you will be able to regain any kind of energy will be Energy Siphon, and I think you can get hit with a Death Orb. So the Death Orbs in the Void, they will restore your energy as well. So really the only way is to get pickups, energy pickups. Now, another thing about this ability is the mod augment for it. It allows you to walk around while you're in this form. This is a fairly new ability, I do believe, because I don't remember this existing beforehand. But you can't, it's very slow, you're very, very, very slow, but you are able to move around instead of being completely immobilized. Now, the guns that I'm shooting, the Peacemakers, are moddable separately. So you can actually put your own mod combination on the pistols that I am currently using. And it's really good because you can just turn off the ability by recasting it as soon as you're done shooting whatever you need to shoot. So instead of doing what most people would do without this ability, they would stand up here and then just hold down the button and it would just fire. Which will work for a short time until you run out of energy like I just did there. And that's kind of the problem with this ability, is that if you stand still, you're not really going to get much done. But if you're moving around, however it might be slow, you won't die as easily, because I know you can get hooked out of it. You'll be able to dodge enemy fire more often. What I would personally do is try to hide behind something like this and kind of peek around the corner, and then use your fourth ability to just destroy everything. So that's kind of the best strategy. But if I were you, I would definitely try to keep your first three abilities active all the time, because it can really help you in the long run, especially for high-level missions. Because Ballistics Battery, you want it ready all the time. So I wouldn't necessarily say spam it, but if there is an enemy that you would kind of need help to take down, like one of the more stronger enemies, or if you get marked by Stalker, this was a good ability to just say, hey bitch, you want to come after me? No, I don't think so. Let me just pop this, and boom, you're dead. So it's kind of like a little surprise, Stalker, you fuckhead. Now, having Ballistics Battery just ready to use whenever you need it is always good, but I would definitely try to spam these two abilities right here, Shatter Shield and Shooting Gallery, because sometimes you will reach a point where the enemies, this doesn't really affect anything here. I don't really need to use Shatter Shield here. It's kind of useless versus the infested, but you might find a little more use out of it if you were to go up against the Corpus and the Kuva and the Grenier. Simply because of the fact that they can shoot. So anything that is without, because they do have a certain range. So you can pass Shooting Gallery on to your allies. I do believe I've said that already, but I'm just going to say it again. And it's a really useful tool when you have this active, because then it spreads out. And if you have a lot of range, then you're going to stun pretty much everything in this room. But there are going to be certain times where enemies will be outside of the Shooting Gallery radius, even with you passing it on to all three of your teammates and having it on yourself. So that's where Shatter Shield comes in. It blocks pretty much all incoming damage and then reflects it back at the attacker, which is always good. But sometimes the enemy will be hiding behind cover, like I said before, and it'll hit the cover instead of them. But at least you're not taking any damage, so it works kind of like Rhino's Iron Skin in a way, except it's reflective. And if you get really overrun with enemies, you just pop this, and then just gun down whatever's in front of you. You run out of targets, you can simply just turn and spin around like I do, and just high noon everybody in the face. So, try to not use Ballistics Battery as often. I know some people just like to spam it and just shoot everything, but unless you have like punch through on your weapon, it's not going to hit multiple enemies, which is not something a lot of people have anyway. But if you have punch through on a lot of your semi-automatic weapons, snipers, and bows, Ballistics Battery is super useful, especially if your weapon is super powerful already. All this does is amplify its already explosive damage. And you'll be able to spam it a lot and use it pretty often if you have a weapon. Oh god, I just missed. That was really bad. But if you have a weapon like this, you should be able to gun the enemies down quick enough and get it nearly instantly. Oh, and a stealth kill like that does also fully get your charge meter all the way up. And if you constantly have Shooting Gallery up and constantly have Shatter Shield on, then there's really nothing that can touch you. I mean, most of the time, whenever an enemy is under the effects of not Shatter Shield, of Shooting Gallery, they'll stand completely still, and you'll be able to use this ability to absolutely destroy them. Now, some of the more confusing synergies you probably won't use very often, but let me go ahead and get Ballistics Battery back up again, and I can show you one of the synergies that I sometimes use. There's no real reason not to do it this way, although it doesn't really do much. So I would just say, anytime you go to use your Peacemakers, just do this, because there's no reason not to do it. I mean, you can do it, and it does work. So, you have Ballistics Battery. Let me hit a life support. So, when you have Ballistics Battery up, you go ahead and you use it, and then you pop your fourth ability, and it will increase the first shot of your first ability, or your fourth ability. See, I just saw the little marker there. None of this is being amplified by the first ability, but you can amplify the first shot from your Peacemaker with Ballistics Battery. So there's no real reason not to do it. But a lot of people don't do it, they just use it as an oh shit, and then they start gunning people down. But what I like to do, if I can help it, is just constantly have this ability up. There's no real reason why you shouldn't have it up, especially if you're using dual-wield pistols like this. All you really have to do is just leave it there. Just don't use your first ability. Just make sure it's always at 100%. And then when there's an enemy that you really have trouble killing, you just activate it, use your Peacekeepers, or your Peacemakers, amplify your first shot, and it'll take it down a smidge quicker than it would before. So, I think that's pretty much all I have to talk about for the abilities. Her passive is pretty straightforward, which is why I didn't elaborate on it very often. But I will go ahead and show you guys the build for both the Peacemakers and the Warframe herself. So, I'll be back. Beat a buddy, beat a buddy! Alright, so this is the build. So obviously, without any introduction, you're going to need Rifle Amp. Rifle Amp needs no introduction because everyone loves this. This is one of probably the best mods in the game in general. Because, I mean, look what it does. It increases rifle damage. I mean, more damage, more damage, more damage is always good, especially if you're using a semi-automatic rifle. I have not used the Grenlock in a while, so I do apologize if my aim was a little sloppy there, but it's really only there for me to use my first ability on. But I need more practice, as you can probably see. But this definitely is a must. You need to have this with MESA if you're going to, you know, do like orange crits like I was doing. So this is the mod that allows you, this is the augment mod that allows you to walk around, in case you are wondering. So this is the mod you're looking for if you want to walk around in your ultimate form, which I would definitely invest in this, guys. This is, in my opinion, a must-have just as much as Rifle Amp. Now, the build that I went with this is, it doesn't really matter how much strength that you have. It does help a little bit, so having a decent amount is pretty good. Although I wouldn't go much higher than 195. You can push it to 200 if you want, and it does make a huge difference. But if you mod your Peacemakers, then you don't really need it a whole lot. So Prime Flow is a must-have because of the fact that you are going to be using Streamline. So both of these mods, you want to have it on Mesa Prime just because she's a spammer. She's a very spammy frame. You're going to be spamming a lot of abilities. So having as much energy as humanly possible is a benefit. And even then, you're going to run out of energy like I did during this video. Now, continuity, must have. Augur message, must have. You need to have these mods on at the very minimum, because having, you could probably even slap on um, just anything that has a lot of duration will help you in the long run, because I mean most of her abilities, including Shatter Shield and Shooting Gallery, they're gonna need a lot of duration, because having those abilities up as much as possible is going to be a massive benefit to you, because you're not going to need to spam them as often. So it gives you some time to kind of re-get your energy before you can spam it again. Streamline, I already talked about that. Power Drift and Intensify, I slapped those on there because why the hell not? I mean, you're going to need power strength, and I don't think that having a second one like this is really all that necessary, because this already has uh, ability strength already on it, and it takes away from your duration, so it kind of balances everything out. And if you add these two, it just kind of pushes your strength even further. But let's go ahead and look at the Peacemaker. So this is the Peacemaker. This is the build that I went for. Obviously, you're going to need a Hornet Strike. Every good build needs a Hornet Strike. That's like one of the most basic things. Augur Impact is just as good. It pretty much does the exact same thing as this. So having these two is going to help you out tremendously. If you want to do a little bit of elemental damage, I threw on this. It just increases your damage much, much more. And of course, I did mix it with this one right here, which it decreases accuracy, but that doesn't really matter with these, considering it's an auto-targeting system. So the accuracy, it doesn't really matter. It just straight up gives you plus 150 extra damage. There's not really a whole lot to say about this. Just ignore the 50% minus accuracy, because it doesn't really matter with her ultimate. Now, I also put on this and this, because you definitely want those crits. Those crits is going to be a majority of what you're going to be doing in terms of damage. And then, of course, your multi-shot. Multi-shot is definitely good because, I mean, more bullets, more damage. So obviously, you definitely want this. But, yeah, your crits is what you're going to be focusing on the most. Now, I was in a solo mission, so of course I had my lucky death cube on me, like I always do, my trusty death cube. However, I'm going to pull out my Kavat, because...
Excellent armaments, operator. Please return covered in blood. Safe and sound.
Orders! So if you do have a Kavat with this mod, you definitely want this mod on your Kavat, because this will help you out tremendously. This is probably one of the reasons why she can do teal crits. I didn't really have high enough level enemies in order to hit the teal crit mark, but I have done teal crits with this mod and the build I was just using combined into one. And there's probably ways I can make my build even stronger. But if you put this on, you will be doing teal crits. And teal crits, if you don't know, are the highest crits in the game. So, definitely get a Kavat, throw on Cat's Eye, go into a game, and just shred everything. So, would I recommend MESA? Fuck yeah, I would. Because she is absolutely amazing. She does tons of damage. It is a little bit tricky to use if you use her the way that I use her, because I want to use every frame to their maximum ability. Now, just some suggestions of weapons that I would personally use for her going from here. Try to avoid any fully automatic rifles. Anything that's just not... And try to avoid projectile weapons as well. You can use bows. Bow and arrows are okay. Those do work pretty decently. But things like the Tsar or any kind of grenade launcher is just not good, as well as fully automatics. But some of the guns that are really good to use is things like the Heck, any type of shotgun. Bore is really good. This weapon's pretty good. So is this one. Beza Prime, not so good because it's fully automatic. This one's pretty good. Any kind of bow is pretty good. Dracagoon is pretty good. Any shotgun. Buzzlock. This is pretty good too, as well as this one. Any sniper rifle, really. This kind of works as well. This isn't that bad. And so is this one. But things like this is kind of like a flamethrower. This is not that good. Rubico, this is where you really shine, is with shotguns and snipers. That's like your golden ticket. Now, Siberus is what I normally tend to use, as well as Tigris Prime. These are the two weapons that I heavily favor, as well as Vectis and Volcar. So, about these four weapons, I would definitely say are a must pick when it comes to using MESA Prime at her maximum potential. So, if you guys have enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know which Warframe you want to see me do next. So I will catch you guys in the next video. Later!